Welcome to Life Talk. This is Thursday, September 28th, 2017, and I'm Mark Crutcher.
And I'm Renee Hobbs. We're doing it a little bit earlier today. Thanks for being with us.
Yes, we got some things to do that are related to our campus project.
Yes.
And so we want to bring people up to date on a little bit of that.
Yep.
I am still, even after all the work we've done on the campus project, or even because of all the work we've done on it, you and I are still absolutely convinced that this is the battleground the pro-life movement has to be on.
Oh, goodness. The college campuses are all, it's in the news, articles. You're seeing, like Berkeley
Right.
canceling a conservative speech there.
Right.
And so, this
And
is where we
canceling
should.
it only because they're conservative.
Only because they're conservative.
Right.
Exactly. So,
And the college campus is a battleground because
Yes.
what I call the godless left in America, especially the abortion lobby, has made it a battleground.
Mm-hmm.
They know that we're making progress, that we're making progress on the campuses that we've never had in the past.
right.
And they know that if they lose the college campuses, they lose this fight. So
Right.
they're out here. It's nasty.
Yeah, even children that have grown up conservative here and go to colleges, they can be turned around real quick, and they do know that, and they target those kids.
And it's happening.
Yep.
And so we're not going to give up on the college campus. And I don't want to give a whole lot of details, but the reason we're taping early today is that Renee and I are going on a project that we've been trying to get some help out in the field from people, but we haven't been able to get a lot of help from other pro-life community out in the field. So we're having to do some of this stuff ourselves, although we have had some people
We've had
cooperate.
we've had some people cooperate, and we've gotten a lot of good colleges, universities, that way. But
Yeah, that are going to be on board for this project.
but we do have to take over a couple.
We're going to have to take over a couple of them, and these are some big ones and some very important ones. And you're going to be seeing very shortly the result of the efforts that we're making on college campuses. I think this thing is going to explode.
I think it's going to be huge.
Big time.
Yeah.
And we've talked to other leaders that know what we're doing. Father Frank, and I talked to him yesterday for a pretty good while. And we've talked the last 2 days about this project, and he is really pumped about it. And so is Troy Newman. Troy is really pumped about it. So
It's
anyway,
going to be a good one.
it's going to be a good project. But the fact is, we cannot seed these college campuses. If we do, what we're doing is seeding the future, because these kids are going to be making decisions about the way this country is run in the future. And we can't let the godless left take them over. And we're seeing this all over the country. It is.
Yeah.
It's so bad now, Renee, that you're even having liberals. I watched Fox News last night, and you had several what I would call members of the godless left coming out here and saying that their own people are acting inappropriately by trying to shut down free speech. One of them made the point, and I thought this was a brilliant move. He said, what the left has not been able to accomplish politically, they're trying to accomplish linguistically. In other words, we control the language,
Right.
not because our message is superior to yours,
Right.
but because we keep you from speaking.
Yeah, and that's why this direct mail is extremely important,
What we're-
because they
yeah.
cannot control that.
They cannot. You're right. That's the big advantage of it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be on those campuses with some very aggressive direct mail, and I think this is just the beginning of this. I think this is going to be big. But anyway, we've got to go out and do some of the work on it ourselves. So we're going to be out of pocket this afternoon and won't be around. So that's why we tape in earlier.
Yeah.
One of the things I think we need to recognize in the pro-life movement, I think we're being shown a lesson right now. You and I have talked about this lately. With the problems that President Trump is having advancing some of his agenda, and the agenda that he's trying to advance is the agenda that he ran on and was elected on. Ending Obamacare, doing something about immigration.
Right.
Now, let's make a point here. The Republicans now control
Everything.
everything.
Yep.
They control the American political process right now. Well, let me back this up. They don't control it. They could control it if they chose to do so. The Republicans have the majority in the United States House of Representatives. They have the majority in the United States Senate. They have the presidency. And I don't remember exact numbers, but I think it's 34 states have majority Republican state legislatures. and they have like 37 of the 50 states have Republican governors. They are in total control.
Right.
And they're getting nothing done.
Yeah, because we keep getting blocked, and these Republicans that are going against us instead of for us aren't helping out either.
Well, the obscenity here is, for example, on the situation with Obamacare. For years, you've had these Republicans run and tell their constituents, because they knew how unpopular Obamacare was and what a train wreck it is. Listen, this thing is ripe to just completely explode. Obamacare is. And it's going to happen. And a lot of these Republicans have seen this and have run on this idea that we're going to overturn Obamacare. And then they propose legislation and all the Republicans vote for it. But now a lot of those Republicans aren't voting for it.
Yeah.
And what's going on here, and the public needs to understand what's happening here, is that they voted for it before because they knew Obama was there and would veto it even if it passed. So them voting for it was a low-risk deal.
Right.
But now that it would actually pass, a bunch of them are backing off and saying, well, wait a minute now, we need to reconsider this, and let's not be hasty. Well, you were real hasty a couple of years ago, right?
Right.
But now that we have a president who would actually sign an overturn of Obamacare, all of a sudden you're backing off.
Right.
And we need to go back and remember, and we're just talking about Obamacare here, but this is applying to immigration too. We're seeing a lot of these Republicans back up on the immigration deal, people who were strong on it before because in their district, the anti-immigration or trying to stop the flow of illegal immigrants was a popular deal, so they said they were voting for it.
Right. Well, yeah, and they've been influenced in other areas, so they,
And now that it would actually pass because you have a president that would sign it, I'm telling you something. A lot of these Republicans that you couldn't hold them upside down and shake the truth out of them. But if you could, they would have preferred that Hillary Clinton won, because then they wouldn't be put in this box that they're in right now.
Yeah, where they have to make a decision and
stick with it.
And stick with it, yeah.
They wouldn't be able to come out and bluff and bluster and talk about how much Obamacare needs to be overturned and how much immigration needs to be stopped. That's what they'd be doing if Hillary Clinton was there to keep it from actually happening.
Well, now we're holding their feet to the fire, and they're folding.
They're folding. That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And what we need to understand is, if you think that what's happening with immigration and Obamacare and tax reform and all these other issues, if you think that that's being difficult and that's a vicious battle, imagine what would happen, how vicious it would be if Trump came out and said, okay, now, next on my agenda is complete eradication of abortion. We're going to stop abortion. We're going to stop killing these kids. Whatever how vicious you think this battle is right now and how much opposition he's getting right now, multiply that times 1,000,000.
Oh, and it would be.
There would be blood in the streets.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying to you is the Republicans don't have the stomach for that kind of battle.
No.
So the point here is that what the pro-life movement needs to recognize is that the solution to this problem is never going to come in Austin, Texas, or in Springfield, Illinois, or in Sacramento, California, or in Washington, D.C.
Right.
Those people are never going to do anything to stop abortion until we've stopped it first. It's going to be stopped community by community, in the streets, by the pro-life movement, or it's not going to be stopped at all.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't trust the government to do their job at all.
You can't trust the Republican Party.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem.
It is for us to fight this battle and
that's the job
keep pushing.
That God gave us.
Right.
When he sent you here and when he put me in this position and when he told me to hire you and start training you to do the things that you're doing, he gave us a job to do. He gave us a calling, and we answered that call, as did people out here in the audience that are pro-life and that are fighting this battle.
Right.
We took on a responsibility right then. That responsibility and that call from God has not changed and will never change simply based on what a bunch of politicians do. So whatever you think, I don't care, and there's a legitimate argument that can be made that this country is collapsing. When you see the things that are happening in this country today, this country, you could make an argument that the nation is collapsing. We may be presiding over the end of American civilization.
Yeah. Well, and Faith on here made a point that we need to repeal Obamacare, not replace it, and I totally agree with that.
Well, this repeal and replace is a latter-day deal. Originally, it was just we're going to repeal it.
Right.
We're going to get rid of it.
Right.
But the responsibility we have in all these areas, and especially as it applies to the abortion issue, the call that you accepted from God, the call that I accepted, doesn't change.
No, not at all.
Our responsibility is the same. I don't care if we are absolutely 100% convinced that, A, we can't win, which is nonsense. We are winning. But if you're convinced we can't win this battle, and if you are convinced that American culture is collapsing and we're not going to be around 20 years from now, even if you believe all those things are true, which they're not, but if you believe they are, you still have an obligation to fight. God still expects you to stand up and do what's right, no matter what the consequences are. The consequences, the results, are His responsibility, not ours.
Well, it's kind of like Monica Miller, our guest that we had the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, going into the death mills and fighting for those babies. I mean, we do what we have to do.
We do what we do.
To save lives.
Wherever God places you, that's the old thing, bloom where you're planted.
That's right.
So wherever God plants you, you bloom right there.
That's right.
And you don't worry about what's going on around you.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what's happening there. And, you know, that responsibility is never going to change. And as I've talked about here before, I don't have heroes, but if I did, one of them would be Patton. And if you go read about the environment that the American soldiers were in under Patton in Italy, I mean in Europe, when Patton's Third Army was going across Europe, at a time when the war against the Germans was still very much in question. And you see, you read about some of these guys, and they're in France or they're in Italy or wherever they happen to be, and it's snowing and it's cold, and they are eating sea rations out of a can. They haven't had a hot meal in weeks, and they're seeing their buddies getting blown up and killed, and they're 7,000 miles from home, and these guys are sit there tell you, we'd given up any thought that we'd ever get to go back home. We're going to die somewhere over here in the snow. And if that's your attitude, right? And there's legitimate reason to think that. And the Germans have bigger guns, and they're fighting closer to their supply line. We're a million miles from anywhere. I'm never getting back home. I'm 19 years old, and I'm never seeing my parents again. I'm never seeing my girlfriend. I'm history. But they did their duty.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And it didn't matter that they didn't see the big picture. General Patton saw the big picture, and he kept telling them, I don't want to hear any of this talk about we're not going to win or we're not going to advance today. We're advancing at all times. We're advancing daily. I don't want to hear any of that talk. He said, if you do your duty, I'll do my duty, and God will deliver the victory. That's exactly what happened. So they didn't have to see the big picture. All they had to see was what was around them.
Right.
And so that's the way we are. The general in our battle is God. I'm not the general. Troy's not the general. Father Frank's not the general. The biggest names in the history of the pro-life movement, Father Marx, whoever, was never the general of this battle. God is the general. He sees the big picture. And he's like Patton. He puts us where he wants us to be, and he gives us a job to do. And he expects us to do that job. And he tells us, he told us in Scripture, the gates of hell won't prevail against you. And if you don't believe that an abortion clinic, the front door of an abortion clinic is a gate into hell, then you're not pro-life to start with. But if you're pro-life, you understand that that front door of an abortion clinic is a gate into hell. And God, our general, has already told us, you do your job, and those gates won't prevail against you, right?
That's right.
So what we have to do as a movement is, we have to get to the point where we have as much faith in our general as those men in Patton's Third Army had in their general. Because Patton told them the same thing that God tells us. And he wasn't God. So who are you going to believe more, right?
Right.
We've been promised the victory. All we've got to do is charge the gates of hell.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to do.
That's what we're doing.
And that call does not change based on what the circumstances are. Just like those men freezing to death in the snow, 19-year-old boy freezing to death in the snow, 7,000 miles from his home. He didn't see the big picture. All he knew is, I've got an order to do this. I'm supposed to take that hill, or I'm supposed to go up this road, or I'm supposed to blow up this bridge, or whatever. That's what my job is. And how it fits into the general scheme of things, I don't know. I trust General Patton to know that.
Yeah. Elaine says it's hard to fight eugenics.
Yeah, well, it is. That's what we're fighting against.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things we're fighting against. But the fact is, it's maybe hard for us in our human understanding to fight against that, just like it was for those guys in Patton's Third Army, to say, well, these Germans have 88 millimeter guns, we have 70 millimeter guns. They have diesel tanks, we have gasoline tanks. We don't have any food. They're close to their food. That's all right. That's all true. But you got to have faith in your general and understand that he knows the big picture. When we have the faith in our general that those men showed in theirs, we're going to win. And in Siege, in my new book Siege, I make this point about having faith in the general. And I talk about an incident that happened here in the United States, or here in Dallas, a few years ago when they were dedicating the World War II Memorial in D.C. And they interviewed 3 men from local VFW halls that were going to Washington, D.C. Local Channel 8 or Channel 5 or whoever it was had them in the studio. When these guys came to the studio, none of the 3 of them had ever met each other. They came from 3 different VFW halls around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Never met each other. While the reporter was interviewing them before the interview started taking place live on television, he asked them where they had served. As it turned out, all 3 of them had been in Patton's Third Army. And it was just an amazing coincidence that he grabbed 3 people just indiscriminately, and all 3 were in there. Well, during the conversation, the reporter said, before we began, y'all were telling me you were all 3 in Patton's Third Army. Did y'all know each other? And he said, no, there were a million guys there. We didn't know each other. And he said, well, General Patton had a certain reputation, what kind of man he was and so forth. Did y'all ever meet him? And all 3 of them said, yeah, they hadn't met General Patton. One of them was a cook, and he said, I fixed meals for him on several occasions. And they asked what kind of man was he the kind of man that everybody said he was, kind of gruff and so forth? And they said, oh yeah, that was General Patton. And they said, what did the men think about him? Did y'all like him? And one of these guys kind of laughed, and he leaned forward in his chair, and he was laughing. He says, listen, most of the guys I knew hated his guts. He said, but we would have run through a brick wall for him.
That's loyalty right there.
That's loyalty, and that's leadership.
Right.
When we have the faith in our general that those men showed in Patton, and it was not a reflection on Patton, it was a reflection on those men. When we do that, the pro aborts can't stand up against us. It's not possible for them to stand up against us if we have that kind of faith. And that's what I was talking about earlier. We've got to have faith in our general. And our general is the Lord Jesus Christ. It's not any of us. It's none of us. I'm not the general. You'll never be the general. No, nobody is. That's who our general is.
Right.
We have to have faith in him.
I agree.
What else you got there?
Just prayers for safe travel.
Right. Yeah, we're going to be traveling a little bit here, doing some of this work, but it's going to really pay off. I'm really excited about this project.
It's going to be good.
And everybody that knows about it and knows what it is is going to be excited about it. So y'all just be paying attention next month or so. This thing's going to hit big time.
That's right.
Anyway, we got any messages we need to address? Or
Nope.
All right. If you have any questions, any subject matter for shows, be sure and let Renee know. Her information's on the screen there in front of you. And just send her a text or email or smoke signal or whatever it is you want.
Something.
You can even call. I know it's old-fashioned, and I get this all the time around here, that you could actually call and, pick up the phone and actually
and talk to somebody.
And actually talk to a person. And not have to text back and forth or email or smoke signal or whatever it is you do. We live in the so-called communication age, and we got the worst communication system in the world. Nothing beats just picking up the phone and talking to somebody. I know.
This irritates him so bad.
Huh?
This irritates you so bad.
Well, it's stupid.
Yeah.
It's really stupid. And I get sometimes around here, I'll tell Renee, I said, go call Father Frank or something and tell him that I need to talk to him a minute. And so.
Okay, I'll send him a text.
And no, she didn't even say that. 30 minutes later, I said, did you get a hold of Father Frank? Yeah. What'd he say? Well, he hadn't responded yet. I said, no, I'm not waiting for him to email back or text back. Did you call him? You have his private cell phone number. Did you call him and like get him on the other end of the phone and talk to him? Why is that so antiquated? Why is my way of thinking about this wrong?
He likes text. What can I say?
Well, then I tell you what we do.
It's a mutual thing here.
I tell you what we ought to do. If human communication back and forth using words, voice, is now blasé.
Obsolete.
Why don't we, instead of being on Live Talk here like this, why don't we divide the screen in the middle, and I'll text you, and what I text you will pop up on your screen, and then you text me back, and that'll pop up on my screen.
We would definitely lose an audience. That would take way too long.
Well, then why does it take
My
us?
texting skills is not that quick.
You see my point? But this is what I put up with all the time. But I guess it's the difference between being almost 70 and being just barely 40. You know, maybe that's the...
Maybe that's the difference.
And then...
Hey, I'm not near as bad as my children that are teens. So
Listen, my daughter and her roommate have sat in our living room watching television
across the room, right?
within 3 feet of each other, texting each other.
They didn't want y'all to hear what they were talking
They
about.
will sit in the... They will ride in the back seat of the car and text each other sitting next to each other in the car. It is the dumbest thing that I have ever seen. But I guess it's just because I'm old and worn out and half dead and, you know, one foot
in the grave and the other one on a banana peel.
Right, that's right.
Right.
And maybe that's, I don't know. I don't understand it. Anyway, we're out of time. I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but it's just something that, as you know.
Krista agrees with you, Mark. Poor communication. You've got somebody on your side.
Good. Thank you, Krista. You're very insightful. And I wonder how old Krista is, if she's my age or not. But anyway, yeah, we live in the communication age, and we have the worst communication in the history of the world.
Yeah.
The smoke signal was more efficient than most of the stuff that we're doing electronically.
You know, this is going to make you feel really good here. Faith is on your side, too.
Good.
Yeah.
Another woman of distinction and observation.
That's right.
Anyway, that's it. We're done. You got anything else?
Nope, nothing else.
Nobody's taking your side in this deal, are they? No, they're not.
I would prefer talking on the phone too, but if it's a mutual thing between Father Frank and I, then that's what I'm gonna adhere to.
And so then 3 days go by, and we haven't heard anything. And then I just finally go in and pick up the phone and call Father Frank on his private number, which she has,
Yes.
and he answers, and we talk. So anyway.
He's exaggerating.
No, I'm not exaggerating. Not one little iota am I exaggerating. And everybody out there that's watching this knows I'm not, because they were going through the same exact thing.
Okay.
You know I am.
All right.
You know I'm right. Anyway, she'll never admit it. Just like my wife, Tulane. 46 years I've been married to her. She's never admitted stuff like this either, so I'm used to it. Anyway, that's it. Until next time, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how this killing will stop. We'll see you next Tuesday.
See you then.